So as we begin 2025, one thing you have to know is Canada's express entry system continues to remain a big cornerstone in the country's immigration strategy, which means with all the changes that happen in 2024, express entry is still going to be very key in Canada's immigration plans. So in this video, one thing that I want to do is try as much as possible to anticipate some of the developments that will be happening in 2025, so that those of you who have been here, and as I'm talking now, this community has grown up to 16,000 now, so that I can provide a clearer picture of what those of you who are aspiring to either move to Canada or aspiring to stay in Canada because you are currently in Canada, what you can expect in 2025. Because the belief is failing to plan is planning to fail. And I believe it will be important that I can give you the needed insights so you can plan accordingly. So in this video, I'll be sharing 5 things with you that I believe by knowing these 5 things, it will help you to plan accordingly so that you'll be ready in 2025. Because the belief is by staying ready and not being ready, that's the only way that you can take advantage of all the opportunities that will exist for you. I believe that everybody's dream can actually become a reality if you plan accordingly. A lot of people have done it and it has worked for them. So by also taking those same routes and learning from people's mistakes, you can maximize your chances and also achieve the dream of possibly moving to Canada or staying in Canada. With all the changes that have happened so far, one thing that you also have to be aware of in 2025 when it comes to express entry draw is the elimination of the job offer points to combat fraud. One thing that the Canadian government has done is now they've taken away that particular aspect where in the past people could get LMIA jobs, and with that one they can score points in the express entry system, and by so doing it can increase their chances of possibly being nominated and immigrating to Canada. And this is one of the biggest steps that the government took to combat fraud, because people were taking advantage of that loophole to at least beat the queue. Either they will acquire jobs that legally might not qualify for LMIA, but they will do their things and as a result secure their points, or they will buy their way into getting those jobs, which will also give them an advantage over other people. And the government felt that this was not fair. So beginning spring this year, this particular aspect is being taken away. So if it was one of your goals or one of your strategies for 2025, my advice to you is reconsider your strategy. Previously, if you received one of those LMIA jobs, that's a labor market impact assessment backed job offers, you are able to receive points of about 50 or 200 points, depending on the knock tier category that your job falls into. And this change that was announced by the Minister Macmillan takes effect in spring of 2025, which is this year. So it's one thing that you have to take note of. So if it's something that you are planning on using, you only have up to spring to be able to take advantage of it, because post spring that one will be eliminated and you can never take advantage of it again. The primary goal of this particular change is to curb the illegal buying and selling of LMIA jobs, which has previously been exploited to inflate candidates' chances of receiving ITA for permanent residency. So just imagine you be in the pool for almost a year and you are still waiting for your chance. Then somebody will just buy a job and as a result score 200 points. And maybe the person might be behind you by 100 points and that person just overtakes you and scores an ITA. By so doing, they felt this was not fair. That's one of the reasons why this has been taken away. There are some key implications of this policy change that I think you should take note of. The first one is equal opportunity. Now, candidates without job offers will be able to compete on an equal playing field. Emphasis being placed on other qualifications such as skills, education, and language proficiency, which means that we all are going to be competing on the same level. There's no way for you to score extra points just because you were able to secure a job, which might not be legitimate in the first place. Secondly, this is going to have a broader impact because this policy will apply to all candidates in the pool as of spring 2025, as well as new applicants. excluding those who have already received ITA. The moment it starts, it's going to apply to everybody, whether you are already in the pool or you are now coming into the pool. So if you are in the pool and you had LMIA, you are going to lose those points. If you are now coming into the pool, you don't have to worry about other people being in there with jobs that legitimately either they bought to take advantage of the situation. Thirdly, there is focus on integrity, because this removal will bring integrity to the express entry pool. Because by removing the incentive to go and look for a job to buy, Canada aims to uphold the credibility of the express entry system, so that I can go back to the old ways where the best people with the highest points are going to be invited to come into Canada, instead of how it became last year, where people were just buying jobs to buy their way into the country. The second one is the expansion of occupation-specific draws. Even though there hasn't been any official announcement made by the Canadian government, indications suggest that the government may broaden the range of occupations that can be eligible for express entry draws when it comes to the occupation-specific draws. Most recent changes that we've seen is that they now have broadened the education fields that are eligible for the post-graduation work permit program. That's the PGWP program. And this hints at a similar thing happening to the express entry criteria too, because most times when they do such a change to PGWP, they also want to make sure that they are not punishing people that they are keeping in the country, which means they will now also broaden the range of occupations that will be eligible for the express entry system. So if you are interested in coming to Canada and your occupations has not fallen into any of the ones that have been drawn recently, my advice is at least keep an eye out, because you never know. One of the occupations that you are eligible for might be added to the new categories that might come up, which might increase your chances of being drawn to come into the country. And by also so doing, it can help you, guide you in some of the courses or programs that you might be interested in studying. So one other change that we saw is the newly PGWP eligible field of study. In December 2024, the education category was added to the PGWP program alongside existing categories like the STEM, healthcare, and trades. Some of the newly included fields of study under this category are early childhood education and teaching, Montessori teaching education, child care provider/assistant. So if your field of occupation possibly falls under any of these, note that in 2025 there is a high chance that they might draw the education category, and you might have the chance of immigrating to Canada based on the education category draws that they might end up doing. So if you fall under any of these job categories, my advice is start preparing and looking at ways that you can possibly position yourself so that if they draw any education draws, you might be able to take advantage of it accordingly. The third thing that I think will be important for you to make note of is the insights that we got from the 2025 to 2027 immigrations level plan that was sent out by the government last year. So last year, Canada government unveiled an immigration levels plan for 2025 to 2027, which provides a critical insight into the future of the express entry system. Because basically what they did was showed how they plan to bring in people into the country. And as the express entry is the main area that they use to bring in people, any plans that they have concerning immigration is definitely going to have an effect on the express entry system. And you could see that the plan highlights the shifts in targets and also some of the priorities the government has going forward, which offers a glimpse into some of the trends that we can expect in 2025. And if you are somebody who pays attention to numbers, it can guide you to show you what the government is actually thinking. That way you can plan and strategize accordingly. So what we will do today is just go through a few of the excerpts from the immigration levels plan that was shared by the immigration minister. The first one is we saw a reduced overall immigration targets. The total immigration targets was decreased incrementally from 395,000 in 2025 to 365,000 in 2027. So you can see that generally we are going to see a continuous drop in the number of people that they plan to bring into the country. However, the federal economic priorities, which include express entry candidates, will see a slight increase in focus. So this is something that you have to be aware of. So you can see that even though the total number of people that they are planning to bring into the country is going to reduce, when it comes to the federal economic priority areas, they are going to increase the number of people that they bring in. So this is one area that possibly you can focus on if your plan is to move to Canada, possibly come and live here. If you are here and you plan to stay here because you are currently on a temporary residency status, you can put your focus in the federal economic priorities areas. Secondly, we saw emphasis on French-speaking immigrants. For the first time, Canada has set explicit targets for French-speaking immigrants with 8.5% targets for 2025, rising to about 10% by 2027. Even though Canada is a bilingual country, in the past, what they've always done is just invite people to come in without generally focusing on French speakers. But this time around, they are trying as much as possible to focus on bringing in people who are French speakers. So if you are somebody who wants to move to Canada and you can speak French, this might be a chance for you to take advantage of it. And with that happening, this can also translate into increased number of express entry draws aimed at French-speaking categories outside Quebec. So in 2025, there's a high possibility that we are going to see a lot of draws that are going to target French speakers because they are consciously going to try as much as possible to bring in French speakers. So if you want to come in but your points are not high enough, this might be the time for you to possibly start your French lessons, because I remember in 2020, a lot of people were advising candidates to learn French. Those who took advantage of it are now reaping the benefits. Those who didn't are possibly still sitting in the pool. So if you are interested in coming in 2025, but your points are not competitive, this might be the time for you to start taking those French lessons to see whether you can score extra points to secure yourself or position yourself in case there is a draw targeting French speakers. Thirdly, we saw a split in the federal high-skilled class. So the federal high-skilled class, traditionally this comprises of programs like the Federal Skilled Worker Program, that's the FSW, and the Canadian Experience Class, that's the CEC. It's now divided into two categories. That's the Federal Economic Priorities and the In Canada Focus. This division signals a shift in the priorities of the Canadian government, with majority of invitations likely to go to CEC and Provincial Nominee Program categories under the In Canada Focus. Because as much as the government is complaining about too many temporary residents in the country, what they are going to try to do to reduce the number is to try as much as possible to transition many of these people who are already in the country to permanent residency. By so doing, they can reduce the number of people that they are bringing into the country, while still reducing the number of people who are already in the country complaining about challenges that they are having when it comes to pathway to permanent residency. These are some of the few things that I felt you should expect from the Canada Express Entry Immigration in 2025. That way you can help prepare yourself if your goal is to move to Canada in 2025. If you got value out of this video, kindly hit the like button so that YouTube will see value in this video and show it to other people. And also feel free to hit the subscribe button and join this family and let's learn together. And if you have any questions or anything that you want me to do a video on, feel free to drop it in the comment section so that we can all engage together. And also make sure you are sharing this video with family and friends that you think can get value out of it. Until the next video, cheers.